Right, here we are in front of the Trap, or the Northview Social Club. Sit in there behind me, the blue door, actually the white door with the blue surroundings. Let's walk a little closer if we can. You just have to put yourself back in 1976. Young policeman driving by, watching all these guys going in and out of this door here, and right behind me became a laundromat, I think, for a while. I don't know what's inside now. Have to look. And then in close proximity, if you look up to that corner there, that was a restaurant called Wimpy's at one time with a school bus. Background, thanks a lot. Wimpy's was owned by the FBI. They created this restaurant. As you can see, it's just like, I don't know, how far is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. Just about 10 or 12 steps from the front door of the Trap, or the social club. Upstairs here, you see this building here with the domed kind of a roof on it. There was apartments that upstairs, and there was stairs that went up there. Actually, we had one of our guys that dated a girl live up there for a while. The Trap here, pretty good story. The FBI was going to put a bug in it. It never really paid off very good. There's a telephone tap that paid off a little bit. They were going to put a bug in it, so they broke in through the back door. We'll go around the back in a minute. That's where Carl Sparrow once set off a bomb to just scare the guys on the inside, one of the rival factions here in Kansas City against the Savella faction, Nick Savella and Court. Nick didn't come down here much. Once in a while, he knew it was a hot spot for police watching. Court came down here a lot, and Tuppy DeLuna, the underboss, and all the rest of the guys came down here. They'd be strewn out on this sidewalk on especially warm spring days when it first started warming up, smoking and joking, wearing their Sansevelt slacks and polo shirts and snap rim hats, smoking cigarettes, kind of the mafia uniform in the 1970s before the tracksuits got hot. Later on in the 80s and 90s, among the younger guys. The older guys always dressed, at least to a certain extent. They mainly dressed kind of to fit in, but they all dressed alike, like most any group of men in any organization will do. But a pretty good story. The FBI broke in down in the basement, and they put a bug upstairs, and they're running wires down the basement, because back then the wireless microphones weren't very good, so they tried to wire it into a telephone line and wire it outside and get it to one of these posts over here, a box somewhere a little bit away, and they'd hook into a box that would then run a line back down to the wire room, which was at an off-site away from here. I actually tried to rent that house or buy that house over there at one time to set up a plant, what we call a plant. I don't think they ever got it done. They could never buy a house down in here. They would have if they could have. So anyhow, back to my story, I digress. Tony Triplett, the FBI agent, he's down the basement. So we got somebody cruising the outside with a radio to let them know if there's anybody prowling around on the outside. And then they radioed their outside crew to say, you know, hey, is it clear? They radioed the outside crew. About that time, the outside crew says, hey, he said, a light just came on upstairs, in an apartment upstairs, and there's movement up there. So they sit tight, hold tight. They're just getting ready to come up out of the basement. And the guy outside sitting up the street, and he can see, probably from way up the street up there, or maybe over there, I'm not too sure, but he could see as the front door opened, and Willie Comisano Jr., who was the son of, like he was in at the time, he was probably in his 20s. He'd been visiting a girl upstairs, and it was about 5 o'clock, 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning. He was getting up to head home, and he came out just by a simple twist of fate. That FBI agent could have been coming out the back door, and they were going to walk around the side here as they walked away, so they could have bumped into him. But the crew outside said, yeah, it's Willie Jr., and he's leaving, he's getting his car, okay, he's gone now. So that's kind of an interesting story about the Trap. Hi, how you doing? Looks like a neighbor maybe. Anyhow, so this is a kind of upper scale, up mid-scale residential gentrified neighborhood now for the most part. There's a brand new building across the street. Now, if you look back over here over my shoulder, you kind of see off in the distance, I don't know if you can see it or not, it's hard for me to tell. There's a school over there, and I once spent Super Bowl Sunday sitting up in the very top floor of that school, looking down here, writing license numbers down, and calling in and saying Corky was here, Tuppy was here, who was here. And if one of our targets was inside, we just saw the car pull up out in front and didn't see him again, that was good enough for them to turn on the microphone on the inside. So there's a lot of activity around here. It's so quiet and peaceful now, it's really hard to believe. So I will, wait a minute, I'm gonna walk around back here now. There's the old Kawasaki. Right there. There's some folks walking down the street. Here's the front door of Wimpy's that the FBI owned. And you know, they never could, they were instructed to not try to engage any of the guys. They just sat there, and some of them started coming in. They tried a couple of ruses. They tried to, they got some other informants to come in who were criminals, and they would say they were taking bets on the horse races up in Omaha in order to give themselves the appearance of being shady characters, but they didn't, nobody fell for it. I got a pretty good wiretap, or actually it's a hidden microphone they had in a table of Tuffy and Charlie Mortine and a couple of guys bemoaning the fact that we served all the search warrants on the skim trials and how much bad stuff Tuffy talked about how much bad stuff he found in his we found in his trash, and we really did find some bad stuff for him. He kept notes. You may have heard the famous Tuffy records that is mentioned in the movie Casino. He kept records, and he did for sure. So let's see now, the back door to the trap would have been, this is the one, they set a bomb like late one night right down on this door here over my shoulder. Set a bomb late one night. It was a pipe bomb. It wasn't enough to really hurt anybody on the inside. Scared the dog shit out of them, of course. So this is kind of see old school neighborhood here, around here. And what's interesting is there's projects just to the north. They've all been fixed up, but just to the south and east and west of here, it's all been gentrified pretty much. Now you can see that school a lot better over actually it was a Garrison Community Center in the background, that brown building where Nick and I, one of the unit guys, spent a whole Super Bowl Sunday watching them radioing into the FBI. I'm a funny, Nick and I bought one of these huge bags of Doritos and had some soda pop. So as we get down toward the end, I quit eating on them. Nick looked over at me and said, "Oh," he said, "you don't like the little ones." And ever since then, when I get down to the bottom of a bag of chips and I don't really like eating those little ones, I think about Nick saying, "Oh, you don't like those little ones." So I'm going to sign off now. I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to go up the street to, I'll just have to be on the outside, but where there's actually a tunnel that was used during Prohibition days, and wine was made on one side of the street by the really old, freshly arrived Italian family back in the 20s. And they transported it underground across the street for then later distribution. So I'm signing off now. And if you're on there, I can't see. I see some people are making comments. Thanks for following this, and I can't really see anything because of the sun glinting off my eyes and the screen.